Hey everybody, we are live. Yay! Yay, we are live. I'd like to welcome you all so much. Hey Doris, thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. I'm so glad that you all are here. We are going to have a really good time tonight talking about a topic that means a great deal to me because it really is what my family is all about, creativity. So I really am going to enjoy speaking on this topic for the next couple of weeks leading up to the activation tour. If you all are joining us for the first time or if you joined us last week, please take this time now to invite a friend. So click in your left hand corner, click share, and take this time to invite this live to someone that's in your circle of influence, okay? Go ahead and do that right now for me. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm so happy to see you today. So happy to see you tonight. Hope everyone had a good day. Hope you had a productive day. Hey, Glenda. I don't know if I already said that, but thanks so much for tuning in. All right, y'all. So we're talking about the power of creativity for entrepreneurs tonight. As I said before, it's a topic that means a lot to me because this is really the generator of my family. It's something that my family and I do. We use creativity every day, and I'm sure you do too. Let me ask you, do you use creativity every day? Yes or no? Hey, Darnell. Hey, Brandon. So, those that are joining me now, I just asked the question for those that are joining me. Do you use creativity daily? Do you think that you use creativity daily? And would you call yourself a creative? Yes or no? So take this time to answer that question for me. Hey, Chandra, how are you? Take this time to say yes or no for me. If you consider yourself a creative, or if you consider yourself using creativity in your day to day, yes or no? So while you all are typing that, I prepared a couple of slides for you that I want to be able to guide our conversation. And so I'm going to be clicking over to those in a few minutes. Hey, Wanda, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. All right. So a lot of people, when they think about creativity, they think it's so far removed from them. They don't think that they are creative at all. So I would dare to challenge that and tell you that I do believe that every day that you wake up, you express some type of creativity. So I will say, despite what the left brain or the right brain may say, I believe that all of us possess creative power inside of us. So I would dare to say, whether you said yes or no, or Danita, I just don't know. I would dare to say, yes, you are creative. Why? Because despite what science says, and despite what Cosmopolitan or your popular magazines may say, creativity does belong to God. And I really believe that when He infuses His purpose into us, He also infuses that purpose with creativity. There are so many things on this earth that are alike, but there are so many things that are waiting for different spices and different, colors or different scents or whatever that can be created by you. There are so many different hamburgers, but when each hamburger place puts their thing on it, it makes it amazing. So I would dare to say that we are born with an inept ability to be creative. And I really believe that that is something that a lot of us have allowed a lie to tell us over the years, and we just simply do not believe that we can connect to creativity. So I'm going to debunk that myth right now before I even get to the next part of my presentation tonight and say to you, you are creative. So congratulations on that. So, Joretta, welcome. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Kathy, welcome. As I said, if this is your first time joining us, please take the time to invite someone to this live right now, okay? All right. All right, so with that being said, let's continue in the presentation. As I said before, I'm going to click over and start the presentation. I'm going to allow for some questions to be had towards the end. And mind you, I'm going to stay on this topic for the next 2 weeks leading up to 3 weeks leading up to the activation tour on August 17th. So I want you to go ahead and lock in Thursdays at 10 p.m. to join me every Thursday at 10 p.m. on this live so that we can begin to have this conversation and dialogue together. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to click over and I'll see you all in a minute, okay? All right, so Darnell, let me read his comment. I like that. Darnell says, I think that creativity in the 21st century is more important than reading, writing, and arithmetic. Thank you for promoting the power of creativity. Absolutely. And I do believe that a lot of the companies that are hiring people these days also believe that as well. And because of that, creativity is going to be the driver as we go into this century as to choosing who's going to come and who's going to be promoted, thus and so. I do believe that creativity is going to be a driver. So, with that being said, let's get started. We're going to be talking about creativity for entrepreneurs, sharing your message with the world. Okay? So, with that being said, let me go to the next slide. All right? All right, y'all. Bear with me. Oh, it's not doing it, Darcy. Okay, so let me just take a moment and tell you a little bit about us. Um, if this is your first time joining us, if this is your first time joining our live, and you may not know who we are, let me just take some moments or some time to tell you. My husband and I, Darcy and Danita Ogandiga, we have been serial entrepreneurs for the last 13 years. We are content creators. We have published between us 8 books. We have produced 84 plus online courses amongst ourselves, not to mention those that we assist others in publishing. We train and teach in nations of in French and English on the activation tour. And the activation tour is our 15th installment, which will be next month. It is a conference that we put on internationally and nationally. And we teach creatives, entrepreneurs, families, individuals how to go through life's transitions. And not only that, but to also develop business strategies, technical processes that help make their business processes and practices better. We have been doing that since 2016. And as I said, this activation tour that we're going to be doing next month will be our 15th installation. I do grief talk coaching where I teach and coach professionals, singles, individuals, creatives, or whatever. I help them to identify the roadblocks in their life to help them get beyond those things into their creativity. So that's something that we've been doing for the last 13 years, and we're so thankful to be able to have the opportunity to do that. All right, so why is this going so slow? Okay, so as I said before, the topics that we're going to be talking about on a weekly basis from now leading up to the activation tour are going to be talking about knowing your purpose. the organization of creativity, the mentorship that comes with creativity, cultivating daily creative habits, and obviously conquering fears. Whatever we're not able to get through on these lives, we'll be able to talk about in detail at the activation tour. So, as I said before, whether you're going to join us August 17th in person or you're going to watch via live stream, you're going to be able to learn more about this in my session. So, we have heard it all before as it relates to creativity. And simply because Darcy and I coach and teach and train people on destiny and talents and, purpose and transitions in life, creativity is bound to come up in our conversations. And it's just amazing when you start offering people something that is their true gift, like creativity, and telling them what is available to them. They tend to take everything that you're giving them, but they tend to reject creativity. And so over time, Darcy and I began to kind of put a put a list of things together as to why people tend to reject creativity. And one of the things that they tend to say is, I have a difficult time expressing myself. Is that you? Do you feel that way as well? I don't want my work to be rejected because creativity is so close to your heart and so close to being sensitive. It can make you feel like, oh my God, I don't want to put myself out there because if I do, I'm going to be rejected because it's not like I'm following a boilerplate within my profession. I'm stepping out of the box and creating something totally different. And even if I am in my profession, maybe I've synthesized different resources and have created a process. And maybe I don't want to be rejected because of it. And some may say, well, you know what? I just don't understand technology. I don't want to do this. Social media is the devil, and I'm serving Jesus. We hear that so much because we work with a lot of churches and ministries. A lot of people in the church and religious backgrounds feel like social media, which a lot of times the platform where creativity is utilized and demonstrated. They don't want to necessarily do that there because they say, oh, I'm serving Jesus. I don't think Jesus want me to do that. Well, let me tell you something. Jesus would want you to be creative, and he would want you to be able to use whatever platforms that you have access to. Social media being one of them. That's why you see an influx of pastors and preachers and ministers and evangelists using social media as a platform like never before because they've separated from this ideology that it's of the devil, and they realize it is a tool of ministry to reach the masses. And so it's a wonderful thing if you tap into it. Some people may say, my responsibilities won't allow me to be creative, and I just have to stay on the analytical or stay on the, on this part. I can't be creative, but I'm telling you, you can be analytical, which I am. I am analytical, but I spend the majority of my time being creative, and I realize that actually helps me to be analytical because I'm able to flow in the sector of creativity. Some may say, you know what, can I be 40 and creative? Is that possible to be 40 or 30 or 50 or 60 or 70 and be creative? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Hey, Janaea. And some may say, you know what, I don't want to see myself on video because my cheeks may look puffy or whatever the case. And let me just tell you, those are the things that we tend to tell ourselves that add to the pocket of fear that we tend to hold as it relates to creativity. But I'm telling you, all of those things are a lie. Now, I'm going to set you free right now and tell you the absolute truths about creativity that we have learned over the last 13 years. And the one thing is, there is absolutely no escalator to the top. Okay? You have got to take the stairs. And what I mean by that, figuratively, is it's going to require hard work. It's going to require work. It's going to require you being able to position yourself in a place where you're able to not necessarily get rid of everything that you've learned, but learn how to take that, synthesize it in a way, and put it atop the creativities and the giftings that God is giving you. And then when you're able to do that, you can say, oh my goodness, I've put in a day's work. I am tired. And then your gift will begin to make room for you. You'll begin to be sought out and sought after. And people that you don't even know will begin to want that thing that's been put inside of you that no one else has access to. Another thing we've learned is that there's no magic formula. A lot of times we want to really skip the work and we want to just jump to the six-figure module or skip to the seven-figure elements that's going to take us straight to the top. But how many of you know a lot of times it's trial and error, it's win and failure, it's all of these things that are combined into one that create the ability to be creative. Sometimes it may not work the first try. And there are so many examples of people that are creative that have tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and failed. And some at first time got it right. It just depends. Anyone can profess that they are something until it's time to do the work. You have a lot of people on social media, for instance, saying that they are this or saying that they are that. And as a result, it lowers our confidence because rather than believing in our gifts and what we can offer and bring to the table, we're not wanting to do that because we don't simply believe in ourselves. So as a result, we are saying, you know what, I'm just going to believe in this person until I can believe in myself. But let me tell you something. That's a cop out. You need to believe in the ability that God gave you. The other thing is when you ask anyone about the big C, which is creativity, the experience is usually about them and not you. And what I mean by them and not you, I'm not saying you. What I mean is someone that is creative, when you're wanting to ask them, how do you do what you do? They're more apt to tell you about someone else as opposed to what they went through. Why? Because a lot of times people that have gone through the creative process to get to success, they reach a point where they just don't want to remember the fear and the dread that came with everything they had to get through. And that's what they say. You want to know someone's success, but you don't necessarily want to know their story. You want their glory, but you don't necessarily want those steps that they took to get where they got to. Sleeping on couches and eating canned beans and all these things before they got to that point of success or trillionaire status. You don't want to do that. And that's why a lot of times, people will say, well, you know what, I asked this person, how were they successful? And they didn't tell me. Well, a lot of times people are emotionally attached or detached from what they went through. And some people may or may not want to engage in what they went through to tell you because they're just like, well, you know what? Maybe you won't have to go through that. Maybe I can save you the heartache. But a lot of times I believe that what makes our story is the grind, is the grit, is the unpretty things that have built our testimony. Now, does that make sense when you're going through it? No. I will be the first to tell you. I don't even want to tell half the things that Darcy and I have gone through in the last 13 years choosing to go the direction of creativity. We've gone through many ups and downs, but I realize as I look along the long haul, those things have built our testimony. They've built us into being who we are, and they've made us raise now resilient children. And it's just an amazing thing, but it was not easy. And as I said, it is exercised by wins, failures, fears, losses, and gains. So, the cycle of creativity, when you're dealing with the cycle, hey, Tina, when you're dealing with that cycle of creativity, there are some things to keep in mind. As we talked about the preparation, I won't spend too much on the preparation, but let me just say this about preparation. Let me log off for a moment so you can see me. So preparation, one of the things that I thought about preparation was this mixtape. And I thought about in terms of preparation, how when Darcy and I first got together, we were dating. We were not dating, we were friends. And I remember when Darcy first came from Gabon straight to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I was at UNC Greensboro studying social work. But no one knew I was a preacher's kid, but I love Tupac. And I meet Darcy, and he's, barely speaking English at that time, and he's loving Tupac. So it was a mixtape that brought us together, and it was Tupac that allowed us to express our creativity. So, how do we know that in the preparation of us building our love for each other, that preparation was going to be over a mixtape, which is old right now, but a mixtape that we vibed off of with Tupac? And when you think about, preparation, that has to be met with habits. What are those things that you do daily? For instance, my daughter this week was recognized by Clayton County School System for her achievements as an author. And they also congratulated because they heard that she was in the process of publishing her next book. So, not only that, but some other amazing things that I can't talk about right now are in the works. But how did Talma create good habits that led to her publishing her first book, Love is a Flashlight? And this is my daughter here. How did it lead to her at the age of 7 publishing her first book? I'm going to tell you. If you look at all of these notebooks, composition books, one of the things that I did between my husband and I, we had a pretty, you know, heavy commute during the week. So having children, those children become a part of your commute. So where they go, where you go, they have to go too. And so one of the things that I realize is that I want to try to make this worthwhile for the children while they're in the car. So I'm going to get some composition books from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to put them back there in the car. I'm going to put some crayons. I'm going to, except for the summertime, no crayons because they will melt. But I'm going to put some pencils, some pens. I'm going to put some notebooks, some drawing pads in the back seat, and it'll give Talmer an opportunity to start writing. And so we began to do that. And, the first couple of days, she didn't really want to bother it. She just wanted to get her snack and just, eat her snack or whatever. But we noticed over time, she started pulling those things out and she started writing. And one notebook got filled up and she would go to another, and then she would go to another. And so over the course of time, oh my goodness. I'm sorry. My headphones came off. Over the course of time, um, she began to write. She began to write. And it's amazing because I basically, when it came time to publish her book, basically looked at her notebook. And everything that made her book was in her notebook. So all of this produced this. And it's just amazing because once you pour into your children and create a space for them, you begin to see them flourish. This week alone, Butu, we gave her some paint and we gave her a couple of canvases that we got real cheap from the Dollar Tree. And just said, okay, she's been expressing the desire to want to paint. Let's just see what she wants to do with this. And look, she made this. And I think it's absolutely beautiful because I learned from one of my friends on social media that there is this technique where you can drag. I don't know what the technique is called, but we're going to be using that now with Butu so that she can begin to learn a different style of painting. So it's just those type of things. So let me go back to the presentation to express my point. So good habits. Those good habits are in place because you cultivate the atmosphere. And then when you begin to cultivate the atmosphere, those inspirational moments, like the book publishing of Talmer, like the canvas of Butu, those things began to come through. And not just talking about our children, but One of my clients, Tamisa Barrow, she wrote this amazing book, No, Hell No, and Not Anymore. And, she was just like, Danita, I really want to do this, but not really sure how to go about doing it. So I worked with her for what looked like almost 2 years. And basically taking her information, her stories, and putting them together, it made this book. And that's pretty much what I do with Story Keepers. I help you to take your vision and put it in writing. And she produced this amazing book. And I'm just really proud of her because, it's an amazing book. When I wrote Overcoming the Orphan Spirit and self-published it, this was my first book. What people don't realize is that this book came out of about 2 years worth of journal writing. And this journal produced this book. And it's just that simple. We have a really good friend, Michelle Tecci, who writes primarily in French, but he produced this book in between his jobs of working. And in between working, he would get up at 4 a.m., I think. And between 4 and 5, I'm sorry, between 3 and 5 a.m., he would write. And as a result, his book landed number one bestseller on Amazon. So this is just an example of one of our friends, Michelle Tecci, who produced and published his own books in his own right. But the fact is, he created an atmosphere which led to an inspirational moment to produce his book. And it's the same for me. It wasn't enough to write this book in English. Creating the habits, creating the atmosphere, it provided me an opportunity to say, okay, you know what? I want to produce this now in French. So this book in French. So it's the same thing with you all. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you that creativity does not belong to you, because it does. So, with that being said, let's just go to our next slide. On the Hey Michelle, on the vein of creativity and atmosphere, one of the things that I realized that was important to Darcy and I really dealt with our environment. Our environment is everything, because when you are creative, you create an environment like no other person I know. And one of the things that I realized is the people that I met over the course of my life that were creative simply were not necessarily hermits, but you could tell when you were in their atmosphere, oh, creativity happens here. For instance, a gentleman that I used to know in Greensboro was a boxer. And one of the things that he dedicated himself to was boxing. So his craft was boxing. He eat, sleep, think boxing. Now he did work. He worked for a bookstore, but you best believe if you were ever in his element, you saw his workout equipment, you saw his egg whites, you saw his Muhammad Ali the Greats, you saw his books on building muscle and all of those things. It was nothing but boxing. Another one of my friends in Pittsburgh, Jorge Myers, is an artist. And I know he would be so proud of Butu if he saw this. Shout out to Jorge Myers. But he lived in a loft like I lived in Pittsburgh. And one of the things that was so apparent to me, when you walk into his space, you see canvas, you see artwork. He didn't go to Home Goods, y'all, and buy art. He's basically furnished his own house, his own loft with his artwork. So he was dedicated to his craft. You saw paintbrushes. You saw, art books. So that's when you give yourself to that, it becomes a part of who you are. So creating the environment sets the tone and the atmosphere for creativity. Y'all, I'm sure you can tell I'm passionate about talking about this because creativity is something that I've always had, I saw my parents have, I saw my grandfather have, and it's always been in my family. And I've always been blessed with the opportunity to be able to express myself creatively. And so every job that I've had, it was an element of free expression and creativity. I'm so grateful for that. And because of that, my employers were able to get the best of me because they allowed me to be creative. So I always came to the table with innovation. I always came to the table and was promoted because I was able to be creative. And when you open up creativity, you unlock innovation, you unlock inspiration, and all of those things are so important to the building and the thriving of the people and the business for which they work in or create. So, with that being said, let me just finish up this slide and we'll get to it. So, as it relates to environmental with Darcy and I, one of the things that we realize as it relates to building an environment of creativity, we would need to be able to function in a way that we would not necessarily be bogged down by a lot of responsibilities or a lot of things that we had to do. So, one of the first things that we did when we first got married was to eliminate our consumer debt so that we could be free to be able to travel, so that we could be free to be able to invest in what we needed to invest in, so that we could be able to do what we needed to do: paint, write, travel, speak, teach, write. And how many of you all know when you start out being creative or you start out, with your gift, you may not be compensated. And so we were blessed to be able to have a sort of an egg to be able to start doing what we were doing without expecting anything. And that really allowed and afforded us to be able to give without that heaviness of thought of how are we going to eat or how are we going to sleep or how are we going to do this or do that. Now, I'm not saying we're living off lavishly or anything because we're definitely not. But what I'm saying is it provided us an opportunity when we first got married to be able to count the costs and then create an atmosphere that was conducive to our goals. Another thing that we did was we developed software, and we bought software and acquired software within our business to be able to help us automate our business so that we could dedicate more time. Instead of answering phone calls and answering emails, we dedicated time to investing in teaching and coaching and software to be able to help us be more creative. Another thing that we did that we don't really tell a lot of people, except when you come to the activation tour, at the activation tour, you think you're getting something now. You're going to get the absolute mechanics, top to bottom, of everything that we have ever done and our story in full, because we really believe that we don't want to be like those people that say, okay, we're going to be emotionally detached away from our journey. No, we're going to tell you the wins, the losses. We're going to tell you the successes, the failures. We're going to tell you what worked, what was Holy Spirit driven, what was flesh driven, what worked, what didn't work, what were some of the things that we encountered along the process. And one of the things that we did is we got married in 2005, y'all. We did not have a television until 2014, y'all. 2014 was the first time that we bought our television. And I remember when my family used to come to the house, they used to be like, "Oh, where's your TV?" It's like, "We don't have one." "Oh, we can go buy y'all a TV." No, that's a personal choice. We just don't have one. It's for focus purposes. Now, mind you, our daughter, when she finally came into our life, we had, computers or whatever to let her watch TV or whatever. So she was not, starved or anything with reality or whatever. But it was a personal choice that Darcy and I had and made that kept us focused so that we could be able to dedicate the time that we needed to dedicate to what God called us to do. And it has truly paid off. We're seeing the benefits. We have made a lot of mistakes. We've had a lot of failures, but we've also had a lot of successes, a lot of wins. And a lot of the things that we're doing now, being able to travel internationally and teach people all over the world in 10 nations, is amazing. And to be able to be, I'm from a small town in Kinston, North Carolina. I would never have known that people on the other side of the world were waiting for something that I could give to them, and they would be willing to travel hours and hours on a bus or hours and hours on a plane just to be able to hear the words that are coming out of our mouth. That is amazing. So there's no reason that you can tell me that, when God gives you a purpose, he doesn't attach creativity to it. And creativity does come from God. So y'all, I'm telling you, it does. And obviously, our mobile workspace, being able to work practically anywhere in the world and not being tied down to a specific location. Right now, we can pick our family up as we did last year. We traveled to 4 countries in 35 days with our baby who was 10 months old and our aunt and our two children and other two children. And it was amazing. We had, 12, 16 suitcases. It was amazing and crazy at the same time. But again, putting those things in place so that we could be able to focus and make those choices. So, what I wanted to conclude with that is an invitation. Hey Brandy. Hey Donna, how you doing? Thanks so much for tuning in. Asia, welcome. This is just an invitation for you all to join us on August 17th at the Activation Tour Atlanta. The Activation Tour Atlanta, as I said, is a conference that we hold. We've held now in 10 nations. It's something that we're bringing to Atlanta because we live here, and it will be August 17th. If you're going to be here in person, feel free to come and join us August 17th. If you're not able to be in Atlanta, but you want to be a part of the activation tour, you're able to join us via paid live stream. And that's absolutely awesome because we realize a lot of people have told us we want to be a part, but we can't get to Atlanta. And the amazing thing is when you have people that are willing to make a sacrifice to join you wherever they are, you're going to make it possible. So we've made it possible for you to be able to join us wherever you are in this big old world. And we're excited about that. Another thing that we're going to be doing is offering slots of times for intensives. And what we do during the intensives is, in addition to the training that you will receive at the activation tour, maybe you have an idea or a business or a concept and you're not really quite sure how to get it off the ground. Maybe you want to tap into Story Keepers and meet with me about your story idea. And what people don't realize is through Story Keepers and through the things that Darcy and I do, we're able to go amongst the 5 modules. We're able to do the book, we're able to do podcasting, your webinars, your masterminds, all of these things, your workshops and curriculums. And I just think that's amazing. Courses, all of those things we're able to help you to set up. We've been doing those things now and doing them successfully for years, and we cannot wait to help you. We are so excited. This woman could not even wait until August 17th. But we have a woman that's flying in at the end of this week to be with us. She's like, I don't even want to wait till the activation tour. Tell me your price. What is it? I want to come and I want you all to coach me for 3 or 4 days and tell me whatever it is. I'll pay it. I want you to coach me and train me because she's trying to take her business to the next level. Well, you know what? Like I said, when we hear stories like that and we see people committed like that, and we go overseas and we see people in Cameroon, even in Douala, people still drive 2 hours or an hour from Yaoundé to be with us in Douala. It's amazing because I'm like, my God, where did these people come from? But that's just the thing. When you decide that you're going to be creative and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to not conform to this box of, bureaucracy or blueprints or whatever. I'm going to allow that creative spirit that God put inside of me to just flourish. When you begin to do that, you have no idea what you're setting yourself up for. You are providing the way for God to be able to download ideas that are not even on this earth yet. You may be thinking right now, oh my God, there are 16 people right now that I know that are on Facebook that are doing lashes. But God may have given you a technique. One of my friends right now, Aisha Jefferson, and I don't remember her married name, I'm sorry. But she just created and trademarked a brand new method of doing crochet and crochet for your hair. And it's a brand new method called I forgot the name of it, but she's trademarked it. And those type of things, fiddling and fidgeting with that in the middle of the night, preparing to do it, creating those habits, developing the atmosphere led to that inspirational moment for her to be able to say, you know what? I'm on to something. I'm going to trademark this. It's going to work. And now she's on her way, to doing some amazing things. It's the same thing for you. There may be a book inside of you. There may be a business idea. There may be a t-shirt idea. There may be something in this world or new food collaboration that you've never even thought of, but you're stuck in the how. Like, how could somebody want to do and want to hear from me? Every person that is successful right now had their moment of people calling them crazy, their moment of people calling their ideas outlandish. But there's a first time for everything. So why not let that first time start with you? It's amazing. When you give yourself to creativity, the dividends will pay off. It may not look like it, but when you begin to structure yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to focus myself like Flint to be focused and creative, and I'm going to develop those habits. I'm going to put myself in a space to be creative. You will be surprised at the downloads that you will receive. The people that are in history don't need to be the only ones that are getting accolades for, the wonderful things that they've done as it relates to creativity. It is our time for innovation. It's our time for inspiration. It's our time for creativity. So let that start with you. Okay? So I'm going to come back next week with more on this topic. And I'm going to keep talking about it until we get to the activation tour so that when you come and you are a part of my session on creativity and focus, you're going to really be ready for the meat of what we're going to talk about, because I'm not talking about that here. We're just going over light stuff here. We're going to get into the mechanics and the wheel turning stuff and the exercises and the workbooks at the activation tour. And I cannot wait for you to be a part of it. So if you have not gotten your ticket, go ahead and get your ticket. Do not be like those people that wait till the last minute, y'all. Don't do it. Go ahead and get your ticket while it's still in the early bird stage. Darcy has extended the early bird ticket. Go ahead and get it. If you're doing paid live stream, go ahead and get it. Okay? It's important to go ahead and make the decision, because when you connect your decision to the opportunity, you're going to see a combustion. So I'm telling y'all, don't delay. So, do you all have any questions for me? I'm going to take about 2 or 3 questions. And while you're adding the questions, I'm going to go to the comments. Tina, Vinsa, how you doing? Donna Brandi, welcome. Let's see. Donna said, I thank Avid for this video post. I know God wanted me to hear this because I had just woke up. Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you came and that you're a part of this, Donna. That's absolutely awesome. I'm glad that you're here. And I'm hoping that you received something out of it and that you will come to the activation tour and that you'll commit to be with us on this live next Thursday. So, does anyone have a question while I am preparing to let you go? Any questions? I do want to ask you all something. If you could take the time to share this with about 2 or 3 people, I challenge you that now. Take the time to share this with about 2 or 3 people in your circle of influence. What is that going to do? Maybe you want them to know that you're churning something creative. Maybe you're wanting to kind of give them a signal that they need to come to the activation tour. Maybe you're wanting to just say to them, hey girl, hey man, I know that God has been speaking to you about that idea. I'm going to give you a nudge. I dare you to share this with 2 or 3 people in your circle of influence. Okay? Take the time to do that now. And also share it on your page as well. So, are there any questions for me? Any questions at all? I'll give you a few moments to post if there are any questions. And if there are not, let me just say thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate each and every one. So now you all understand what I meant when I put that post on Facebook about the client that I had just gotten for Story Keepers. This was not their stack, but their stack was something like this. And they said, Danita, can you work with this? And they basically hired me, and I'm going to be working with them for the next 5 months to create a novel. And I'm excited for them because they've been really dedicated to pretty much doing what I've asked them to do with their project. And I'm excited to see where it's going to go. So, with that being said, are there any questions? And if there are no questions, let me thank you all once again for joining me tonight. Thank you for taking the time to share this with your community. Thank you for just being here and just being who you are. And one of the things that we're going to delve into heavily at the activation tour towards the end of the time that we're going to spend is really talking about the fear and how to overcome the fear of creativity. We've been all told something about our ability to be creative, and we're going to zone in on that. So, Darnell, thank you so much for being here. Donna says, I'm working on my book now, but it is in between me going to school. It's taking a while. You know what? It doesn't matter. It's okay. Just so long as you're committed and you don't stop. If I can be of assistance to you, please let me know. Okay? Karen, thank you so much for tuning in. I encourage you, if you're just joining me, to go back and watch the replay. Thank you so much, okay, for tuning in. So I take it that there are no questions. Darnell, thank you so much for your comments and for your participation tonight. I really appreciate it. All right, so if you're watching this in replay and you should have some questions, just post them and I will come back and I will respond to your questions. But you all, thank you. I did post the link for the activation tour. I'm hoping that you'll make the decision, a quality decision, and that you'll become a part of the activation tour, whether in person or via live stream. This is Danita Ogandaga. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a good night.